is Jay Gatsby, who is the mysterious and wealthy neighbor of the narrator Nick Carraway. Although we know little about Gatsby at first, we know from Nick's introduction and from book's title that Gatsby's story will be the focus of the novel. As the novel progresses and Nick becomes increasingly drawn into Gatsby's complicated world, we learn that Gatsby wants Daisy, Nick's cousin, the girl he once loved. Anything and anyone that stands between Gatsby and Daisy becomes an antagonist. Although Daisy's brutish husband Tom is the most obvious antagonist, a variety of more abstract concepts such as class difference, societal expectations, and Gatsby's past lies can also be considered as antagonistic. The most powerful antagonist is time itself, which prevents Gatsby from capturing what he has lost. After a brief passage which frames the narratives as Nick's recollections of a summer from his past, he longs only for Daisy. Gatsby's central aim through the novel is to see Daisy again and recapture their shared past. On a trip to the city with Tom, Nick meets Tom's mistress. In the rising action of the novel, Nick arranges reunion between Gatsby and Daisy, and Jordan tells Nick about Daisy and Gatsby's history. Gatsby and Daisy fall back in love, and Gatsby tells Nick one version of his life story. Many of the stories Gatsby tells about himself turns out to be lies or half-truths. The fantastic nature of his stories give Gatsby's history a mythical quality which reinforces the sense of him as a tragic hero. Gatsby and Daisy are briefly happy together, and Nick gets drawn into their romance even though the outlook for the couple's future seems hopeless, largely because of Gatsby's inability to separate his dreams from reality. Both the reader and Nick can see the disparity between Gatsby's idealized image of the Daisy he knew 5 years earlier and the actual character of Daisy herself. Fitzgerald represents Daisy as a shallow, materialistic character, reinforcing the sense that Gatsby is chasing a dream rather than a real person. There must have been moments, even that afternoon, when Daisy tumbled short of his dreams. It had gone beyond her, beyond everything. On an outing into the city, Gatsby erupts and tells everyone in the room that he and Daisy are in love and are going to run away together to marry. However, Tom says Daisy will never leave him, and Daisy is unable to tell Tom she never loved him. Here, for the first time, Gatsby must confront directly the possibility that his dreams cannot be attained and see Daisy that she currently is, rather than his idealized remembrance of her. Even at the point, however, he remains convinced that she will ultimately choose him over Tom. The climax of the novel comes when the group is driving back from New York in two cars, and Mark, Tom's lover, mistakes Gatsby's car for Tom's and runs into the streets and is hit and killed. The car that killed Marshall belongs to Gatsby, but Daisy is driving. After this, the action resolves quickly. Gatsby takes the blame in order to protect Daisy, and Marshall's husband, George, kills Gatsby and then himself as revenge. Gatsby has already died in a symbolic death at this point when he realizes that Daisy will not call him and is not going to run away with him after all. His dreams is at last obliterated and his heads into the morning card petrol. And he heads into the morning of his death, facing reality for the first time. Nick describes the world as Gatsby now sees it as unbearably ugly. He found what a grotesque thing a rose is, and how raw the sunlight was upon the scarcely created grass. In contrast to previous obsession with the past, the final passages of Gatsby's life are concerned with newness, creation, and the future, on which, lacking his dreams of Daisy, he finds hideous. In the final falling action, the book Nick must also confront reality as he realizes his glamorous, enigmatic neighbor was the poor son of farmers who got mixed up in criminal activities and had no true friends besides Nick. Nick tries to arrange a funeral for Gatsby, but none of the guests from his lavish parties come. Daisy and Tom leave town, and Nick is left alone with Gatsby's father, who reveals the truth of his son's humble beginnings as James Gatz. After the funeral, Nick decides to return to the Midwest, where he is from, feeling disgusted by the distortions of the East. First, though he visits Gatsby's house one last time, boarded up and already defaced with graffiti, and reflects on the power of the green light at the end of Daisy's dock that kindled Gatsby's hope of recapturing the past up till the moment of his death. So we beat on both against the currents, borne back ceaselessly into the past, he says, including himself in the tragedy of Gatsby's fall. So, next, discussing about the literary devices, specifically the themes. The first theme that is used in Great Gatsby can be considered as the decline of the American dream in the 1920s. On the surface, The Great Gatsby is a story of thwarted love between a man and a woman. The main theme of the novel, however, encompasses a much larger, less romantic scope. Though all of its action takes place over a mere few months during the summer of 1922 and is set in a circumscribed geographical area in the vicinity of Long Island, New York, The Great Gatsby is a highly symbolic meditation on 1920s America as a whole, in particular the disintegration of the American dream in an era of unprecedented prosperity and material excess. Fitzgerald portrays the 1920s as an era of decayed social and moral values, evidenced in its overarching cynicism, greed, and empty pursuit of pleasure. The reckless jubilance that led to descendant parties and wild jazz music, epitomized in Great Gatsby at the opulent parties that Gatsby throws every Saturday night, resulted ultimately in the corruption of the American dream as the unrestrained desire for money and pleasure surpassed more noble goals. When World War I ended in 1918, the generation of young Americans who had fought the war became intensely disillusioned as the brutal carnage that they had faced made the Victorian social morality of early 20th century America seem like stuffy, empty, and hypocrite. The dizzying rise of the stock market in the aftermath of the war led to a sudden sustained increase in the national wealth and a newfound materialism as people began to spend and consume at unprecedented levels. The person from any social background could potentially make a fortune, but the American aristocracy, families with old wealth, and scorned the newly rich industrialists and speculators. Additionally, the passage of the 18th Amendment in 1919, which banned the sale of alcohol, created a thriving underworld designed to satisfy the massive demand for bootleg liquor among rich and poor alike.